On April 22, 2025, the serene valley of Pahalgam in Jammu and Kashmir was shattered by a horrific act of terrorism. Gunmen stormed a crowded marketplace, indiscriminately firing upon civilians and spreading terror. The attack claimed the lives of 26 innocent people, leaving the nation in shock and grief. The Indian government condemned the attack in the strongest terms, vowing to bring the perpetrators to justice. Evidence quickly pointed to Pakistan-based terrorist groups, further escalating tensions between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. The Pahalgam attack was not an isolated incident. It was the latest in a long line of cross-border terrorist attacks that India had endured for decades. The attack served as a stark reminder of the persistent threat posed by terrorism emanating from Pakistani soil. India's patience had worn thin. The government resolved to take decisive action to protect its citizens and send a clear message that such acts of terror would not go unpunished. This resolve culminated in the launch of Operation Sindoor. In the early hours of May 7, 2025, India launched Operation Sindoor, a carefully calibrated military strike against terrorist infrastructure within Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The operation, involving the Indian Army, Navy and Air Force, marked a significant escalation in India's response to cross-border terrorism. Operation Sindoor was not a declaration of war. It was a targeted and measured response aimed at dismantling terrorist infrastructure and deterring future attacks. The operation was executed with precision, minimizing collateral damage and avoiding any engagement with Pakistani military assets. The strikes targeted 9 specific locations known to harbor terrorist training camps, logistical hubs, and communication centers. These targets were carefully selected based on credible intelligence and meticulous planning. Operation Sindoor represented a bold and decisive step by India, demonstrating its willingness to take proactive measures to protect its sovereignty and security. The targets of Operation Sindoor were meticulously chosen to cripple the operational capabilities of terrorist organizations operating from Pakistani soil. The strikes focused on disrupting their training, communication, and logistical networks. One of the primary targets was a sprawling terrorist training camp located in the remote mountains of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. This camp was believed to be used for training militants in various aspects of warfare, including the use of explosives, small arms, and guerrilla tactics. Another key target was a communication hub used by terrorist groups to coordinate their activities and maintain contact with their handlers across the border. The destruction of this hub significantly hampered their ability to communicate and plan attacks. The strikes also targeted logistical centers used to store weapons, ammunition, and other supplies. By destroying these centers, India aimed to disrupt the flow of resources to terrorist groups, effectively crippling their operational capabilities. India deployed a range of advanced weaponry in Operation Sindoor, ensuring maximum impact while minimizing collateral damage. The operation showcased the Indian military's technological prowess and its commitment to precision strikes. One of the key weapons used was the Scalp, or Storm Shadow cruise missile, a long-range air-launched weapon known for its pinpoint accuracy. Launched from Indian Air Force Rafale fighter jets, the Scalp missiles struck key terrorist infrastructure deep inside Pakistan. In addition to Scalp missiles, India also deployed Hammer smart bombs, guided munitions known for their ability to strike targets with great precision, even in densely populated areas. The use of smart bombs minimized collateral damage and ensured that only the intended targets were hit. The choice of weapons reflected India's commitment to conducting a surgical strike that would effectively dismantle terrorist infrastructure while minimizing civilian casualties and avoiding any escalation of the conflict. Section 5. India's stance, non-escalatory yet resolute. Following the successful execution of Operation Sindoor, India maintained a firm yet measured stance. The government emphasized that the operation was not an act of aggression against Pakistan, but a targeted response to cross-border terrorism. India reiterated its commitment to peace and stability in the region, but asserted its right to defend its sovereignty and protect its citizens from the scourge of terrorism. The operation was presented as a preemptive measure to prevent future attacks and dismantle the infrastructure that supported them. India also reached out to the international community, sharing evidence of the Pahalgam attack and the subsequent strikes against terrorist infrastructure. The government sought to garner international support for its actions and highlight the threat posed by terrorism emanating from Pakistani soil. India's measured response was aimed at conveying a clear message to Pakistan that it would no longer tolerate the use of its territory for terrorist activities. The operation was a calculated move to deter future attacks and compel Pakistan to take concrete action against terrorist groups operating within its borders. Section 6. Pakistan's reaction, retaliation and condemnation. As expected, Pakistan reacted to Operation Sindoor with a mix of condemnation and retaliation. The Pakistani government denounced the strikes as an act of aggression and a violation of its sovereignty. Pakistan denied any involvement in the Pahalgam attack and accused India of fabricating evidence to justify its actions. The Pakistani military was put on high alert, and there were reports of cross-border firing and artillery shelling along the line of control. Pakistan also vowed to respond forcefully to any further Indian aggression. The Pakistani government summoned the Indian High Commissioner to lodge a strong protest and warned of serious consequences if India continued its provocative actions. The Pakistani media launched a scathing attack on India, accusing it of warmongering and jeopardizing regional peace. The strikes were portrayed as an attempt to divert attention from India's internal problems and appease its domestic audience. Section 7. Immediate aftermath, disruptions and tensions. The immediate aftermath of Operation Sindoor was marked by heightened tensions and disruptions along the India-Pakistan border. Both countries deployed additional troops to the border region, and there were reports of sporadic exchanges of fire. Flight operations were disrupted in several Indian cities near the border, including Srinagar, Jammu, Amritsar, Chandigarh, and Dharamsala. Airlines cancelled or diverted flights as a precautionary measure, causing inconvenience to thousands of passengers. The Indian government ordered a two-day Indian Air Force military drill in Rajasthan along the border, further escalating tensions. The drill was intended to test the Indian Air Force's operational readiness and send a strong message of deterrence to Pakistan. In a move unprecedented since the 1971 war, India also planned a nationwide security mock drill to assess the country's preparedness to deal with a potential escalation of hostilities with Pakistan. Section 8. Prior diplomatic efforts, a path to de-escalation. Prior to Operation Sindoor, India had undertaken a series of diplomatic efforts to pressure Pakistan to take action against terrorist groups operating from its soil. These efforts included sharing evidence of Pakistan's involvement in cross-border terrorism with the international community. India had also attempted to engage with Pakistan bilaterally, urging it to crack down on terrorist groups and bring the perpetrators of previous attacks to justice. However, these efforts had yielded little results, with Pakistan continuing to deny any involvement in terrorist activities. In the aftermath of the Pahalgam attack, India further intensified its diplomatic offensive, suspending the Indus Waters Treaty, revoking Pakistani visas, closing the Atari border, and downsizing Pakistani diplomatic staff in India. These measures were aimed at isolating Pakistan diplomatically and economically, forcing it to reconsider its support for terrorist groups. However, despite these efforts, Pakistan continued to provide safe haven to terrorists, leading to the escalation of tensions and the eventual launch of Operation Sindoor. Section 9. The long road ahead, implications for regional security. Operation Sindoor marked a significant escalation in the long and troubled history of India-Pakistan relations. The operation, while successful in its immediate objective of dismantling terrorist infrastructure, has also raised concerns about the potential for further escalation and the long-term implications for regional security. The international community has urged both India and Pakistan to exercise restraint and engage in dialogue to de-escalate tensions. However, the path to peace remains fraught with challenges, given the deep mistrust and animosity between the two nuclear-armed neighbors. The potential for miscalculation and unintended escalation remains high, particularly given the volatile situation along the line of control. Both countries need to take concrete steps to rebuild trust and create an environment conducive to dialogue and diplomacy. The long-term solution to the problem of cross-border terrorism requires a multifaceted approach. Pakistan needs to dismantle the infrastructure of terrorism on its soil and bring the perpetrators of terrorist attacks to justice. The international community also has a crucial role to play in putting pressure on Pakistan to end its support for terrorist groups and create a conducive environment for lasting peace in the region. Until then, the specter of terrorism will continue to cast a long shadow over India-Pakistan relations and the broader region.